Captain Jessica Jess Anderson stood at the viewport of the Lucky Break, admiring the way her ship's mismatched hull plates caught the light of the nearby binary stars. The port side gleamed with salvaged Centaurian chromium, while the starboard displayed a patchwork of materials that would give any traditional engineer nightmares. She loved every impossible inch of it. Captain Lieutenant Marcus Spark Rodriguez called from his jury-rigged sensor station. "We've got company. 3 Imperial vessels approaching from the Cygnus Vector. Their energy signatures suggest heavy cruiser class." Jess smiled, running her hand along the smooth surface of her command console, a hybrid interface that combines 7 different alien technological styles. "Well, folks, looks like we're about to make some new friends. Marcus, how's that cloaking system you modified last week? The one that uses the broken food replicator as a power converter. It's running at 127% efficiency, which according to Imperial physics, should be impossible." Marcus grinned, his fingers dancing across holographic controls that flickered between different alien languages. "They're definitely getting some weird readings from us." The main communications screen crackled to life, revealing the stern face of third-scale General Vix. The Imperial officer's cybernetic eyes widened slightly as they took in the Lucky Break's bridge crew and their surroundings. "Unidentified vessel." Vex's voice carried the precise tones of Imperial nobility. "Your ship's configuration violates 73 standard engineering protocols. Power down and prepare for immediate inspection." Jess leaned back in her captain's chair, a comfortable piece she'd salvaged from a luxury yacht and modified with inertial dampeners from 3 different species. "This is Captain Jessica Anderson of the independent salvage vessel Lucky Break. We're just passing through, conducting legitimate business. Your vessel." Vix paused, their cybernetic eyes rapidly scanning. "Appears to be utilizing a Zalaxian power core in conjunction with Meridian containment fields. This combination is listed as catastrophically unstable in all known engineering databases." "Oh, that." Jess exchanged knowing looks with her chief engineer, Kelly Wrench Thompson. "We fixed that issue with some duct tape and a modified coolant system we borrowed from an old Proximan mining rig. Works like a charm." The sound that came from General Vix might have been a suppressed scream. "Duct tape. Kelly's got a saying," Jess continued cheerfully. "If you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape. Now, about us passing through. Your ship's existence is an offense to the natural order," Vix declared. "Power down immediately, or we will be forced to take aggressive action." Chief Engineer Thompson's voice carried from beneath a console where she was casually rerouting power conduits. "Hey Cap, remember that thing we installed last week? The one that made the quantum physicist cry?" "Power up the Murphy drive," Jess ordered, her grin widening. "Let's show our Imperial friends why human ships make their fleet nervous." The Lucky Break's engines, all 17 of them, roared to life simultaneously. Energy signatures from a dozen different species technologies merged in ways that caused Imperial sensor arrays to short-circuit. 3 different warning klaxons blared on the Imperial vessels as their computers tried to make sense of what they were seeing. By the Emperor's equations, Vix breathed, "What have you done to that ship?" "This." Jess gestured around her bridge. "This is just human ingenuity at work. Watch this. Kelly, activate the garbage disposal thrust system." The Lucky Break's rear section lit up as improvised propulsion units, crafted from modified waste disposal systems, kicked in. The ship shot forward, leaving behind a trail of safely contained plasma that spelled out, "Have a nice day," in slowly dispersing energy particles. As they accelerated away from the befuddled Imperial vessels, Jess could have sworn she heard Vix shouting something about mathematical impossibilities and violations of fundamental engineering principles. Her crew burst into laughter as the Lucky Break jumped to FTL speeds using a drive system that incorporated parts from a vintage coffee maker. "Log entry," Jess spoke to her hybrid computer system. "First contact with the Imperial fleet went about as expected. Recommend updating their engineering manuals. They seem a bit limited in their thinking. Also, need to grab more duct tape at the next port. End log. The Lucky Break disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind 3 Imperial cruisers and one very confused general who would spend the next 3 cycles trying to explain to High Command how a ship that defied the laws of physics had simply walked away from the Empire's finest. Lieutenant Commander Mike, Mad Dog, Martins slouched in his command chair aboard the patrol ship Coffee Break, his boots propped up on a console that combined Salaxian targeting systems with what appeared to be a modified espresso machine. The smell of fresh brewed coffee wafted through the bridge, mixing with the distinct aroma of ozone from their jury-rigged shield generators. "Sir," Ensign Rachel Radar Thompson called out, her eyes fixed on a screen showing multiple overlapping sensor readouts. 3 Imperial destroyers just dropped out of hyperspace. They're running active scans. Mike took a long sip from his coffee mug, which doubled as an emergency power regulator. "Well, would you look at that? Guess they didn't learn from what happened to General Vix last week." He tapped his comm badge. "Engineering, how's our special project coming along?" Chief Engineer Lisa Lightning Rodriguez's voice crackled back. "Just finished connecting the Kranth plasma cannon to the Salaxian shield matrix. According to every known law of physics, this should either vaporize us instantly or create a really interesting light show. Those are my favorite odds." Mike grinned, setting down his mug as the Imperial ships moved to surround them. Everyone remember the plan. His bridge crew responded with the traditional thumbs up of people who had long since accepted that their commander's ideas somehow worked better the more they violated established scientific principles. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a stern-faced Imperial commander. "Human vessel, our scans indicate you are operating unauthorized technological combinations. Your shield configuration alone breaks 16 fundamental laws of energy distribution." "Really? Only 16?" Mike feigned disappointment. "We must be losing our touch. Usually we aim for at least 20 violations before breakfast." He turned to his weapons officer. "Jimmy, how many laws of physics are we breaking with our new cannon setup?" Lieutenant James Lucky Chen consulted a tablet held together with duct tape and optimism. "According to Imperial standards, about 23. 24 if you count the coffee maker integration." The Imperial commander's eye twitched. "Power down your systems immediately. Your ship's configuration poses an unacceptable risk to the fabric of space-time." "You know what poses an unacceptable risk?" Mike stood up, straightening his slightly singed uniform. "Telling a human crew they can't do something because it's impossible." "Lisa, fire up the coffee-powered impossibility drive." The Coffee Break's engines hummed to life as the ship's hybrid systems engage. Energy readings spiraled into ranges that caused Imperial sensor operators to question their career choices. The plasma cannon, now linked to the shield generator through a series of modifications that would make any respectable engineer faint, began to glow with an impossible combination of energies. "Sir," Rachel reported, trying to hide her grin, "they're charging weapons." "Perfect." Mike grabbed his coffee mug, draining the last drop. "Lisa, show them why humans got banned from the last 3 Galactic engineering conferences." The Coffee Break's shields flared as the Imperial ships opened fire. Instead of dissipating the energy, the modified shield matrix channeled it directly into the plasma cannon. The resulting discharge created what Imperial physicists would later term a localized impossibility field, a phenomenon that briefly convinced nearby spacetime that it was actually Tuesday next week. 3 Imperial destroyers found themselves entangled in an energy web that shouldn't have existed, their perfectly calibrated systems overwhelmed by what one officer's report would describe as caffeinated chaos given physical form. As the Coffee Break slipped away through the resulting spatial distortion, Mike recorded his log entry. Another successful test of human innovation. Note to self: requisition more coffee beans. They're essential to our new weapons system. Also, someone tell engineering that using the backup generator to heat lunch actually improved our shield harmonics. We should probably figure out why, but honestly, I'm afraid to ask. Back at Human Space Command, the incident report landed on Chief Engineer Emily Wrench Thompson's desk, adding to her growing collection of technically impossible victories. She was due to defend her whatever works doctrine before the Military Strategy Board, and this would make perfect supporting evidence. After all, as she liked to say, the laws of physics are more like guidelines anyway, especially when you add coffee to the equation. Commander Taylor Tank Reynolds surveyed his unusual fleet from the bridge of the Hold My Beer, a converted mining vessel that now bristled with enough jury-rigged weaponry to make an Imperial weapons inspector quit on the spot. His flotilla of 12 ships, each more impossible than the last, hung in the space above Sigma Sector like a collection of engineering fever dreams. Status report, he called out, watching as his crew prepared for what would likely be the most unorthodox battle in human history. Lieutenant Sarah Glitch Martinez looked up from her hybrid control station, which featured parts from at least 3 different alien civilizations' navigation systems. The improvised response is reporting their gravity drives are running at 200% efficiency, sir. They're not sure why, but the chief engineer swears it has something to do with the lucky cat statue they installed in the engine room. The what could go wrong and the trust me on this are both ready, added Commander Pete Hazard Williams. Though the trust me on this wants to note that their new targeting system works better if the gunner hums the theme from Star Wars. Tank nodded, having long since learned to accept that human ships seem to operate on a combination of scientific principles and pure storytelling. And our special surprise. The modified gravity generators from the Solaxian, Meridian, and Proximan systems are all integrated, Sarah reported. Engineering says they're ready to attempt the maneuver that 3 different species' technical manuals specifically label as "Never attempt this or reality will cry." The Imperial fleet appeared right on schedule, their perfect formation a stark contrast to the seemingly chaotic arrangement of human vessels. 60 warships, each identical to the last, their weapon systems calibrated to mathematical perfection. The communication screen lit up, showing Admiral Kex of the Imperial fleet. Human vessels, your presence here violates 13 separate treaties regarding proper ship configuration. Power down and prepare to be escorted to the nearest Imperial facility for proper dismantling. Tank leaned forward in his captain's chair, which had originally been designed for a species with 3 more legs than humans possessed. Admiral, this is Commander Reynolds. We appreciate the offer, but we're rather attached to our ships as they are. Though I must say, your fleet looks impressive. Very uniform. Our ships represent the pinnacle of standardized Imperial engineering, Admiral Kex declared proudly, unlike your collection of violations against nature. Funny thing about standardization, Tank grinned, tapping commands into his console. It makes you predictable. All ships. Execute Operation Physics Optional. The human fleet exploded into action. The Hold My Beer led the charge, performing a maneuver that caused 3 different Imperial sensor operators to faint. The gravity generators, never meant to work together, created a localized field that bent space in ways that made mathematics students wake up screaming. Sir, Sarah called out, excitement clear in her voice. The Imperial fleet's targeting computers are trying to calculate our possible moves based on standard physics. They're falling behind our actual positions by about 3 seconds. Tank watched as his fleet danced through Imperial formation. The what could go wrong spun on an axis that shouldn't have existed, its weapons firing in patterns that ignored conventional geometry. The trust me on this, its gunner humming loudly over the comm channel, landed hits with impossible accuracy while moving in ways that suggested it had a casual relationship with linear time. Status of the Imperial fleet, Tank asked, as his ship pulled off another reality-defying turn. 6 cruisers disabled, Pete reported gleefully. Their computers are struggling to adapt to our illogical attack patterns. One of their tactical AIs just filed for early retirement. The battle reached its crescendo when the improvised response, its lucky cat statue glowing with unexplained energy, managed to trap 3 Imperial destroyers in what the crew would later describe as a tap dance with gravity. The Imperial ships, unable to process what was happening, essentially gave up and drifted to a stop. Admiral Kex's face reappeared on screen, looking distinctly unwell. What manner of madness is this? Your ships move like humans who never learned that some things are supposed to be impossible. Tank suggested helpfully. You might want to update your tactical databases. Oh, and Admiral, you might want to move your command ship about 3 degrees to the left. Why would I? Because, Tank smiled as the last phase of his plan unfolded, our ships aren't the only things we've modified in this sector. The mining charges we adapted with Kranth phase technology should be detonating right about now. The space around the Imperial fleet erupted in a carefully choreographed display of controlled chaos, leaving the mighty armada in complete disarray. As the Hold My Beer led the human fleet away from the scene, Tank recorded a simple message for Human Space Command. Operation successful. Tactics labeled completely insane proved effective once again, requesting more lucky cat statues for the rest of the fleet. Admiral Jack Jackknife Morrison stood in the observation deck of his flagship Murphy's Law, watching as his infamous Nightmare Squadron assembled. Each ship in the formation was a unique testament to humanity's special brand of creative engineering. No 2 vessels shared the same design philosophy, and that was exactly how he liked it. Status report on the squadron, he commanded, sipping from a mug of coffee that somehow improved his ship's targeting accuracy by 12% when he held it in his left hand. Commander Diana Havoc Rodriguez consulted her tablet, which was wrapped in what appeared to be glowing alien Christmas lights for better performance. The calculated risk has finished installing their new sensor array built from modified kitchen appliances. They report a 300% increase in accuracy, though the system only works if they're playing classical music through it. What about the "this might work"? Jack asked, watching as the ship in question performed a barrel roll that seemed to briefly ignore several laws of physics. Chief Engineer Matthews reports their experimental drive is functioning at peak efficiency, though she notes it makes a concerning humming noise unless someone tells it jokes every 4 hours. Diana paused, checking another readout. She's not sure why, but she stopped questioning these things. The bridge crew of the Murphy's Law had learned to take such reports in stride. Their own ship, after all, used a malfunctioning food synthesizer as part of its targeting system. The device had started producing nothing but rainbow-colored toast one day, and somehow this improved weapons accuracy by 300%. Sir, Lieutenant Mark Mayhem Chen called from his station. Imperial long-range scouts detected on approach vector. Their scan patterns suggest they're trying to analyze our fleet composition. Jack smiled. Let's give them something to think about. All ships execute formation pattern. Who needs physics anyway? The Nightmare Squadron moved with choreographed chaos. The Hold My Coffee, a destroyer retrofitted with 7 different species propulsion systems, spun in ways that made space itself seem confused. The U asked for it zigzagged through debris using what its crew called probability surfing, while the what's the worst performed maneuvers that made Imperial tactical computers beg for early retirement. Imperial command ship incoming, Mark announced. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing first-scale Commander Zix, whose cybernetic eye was already twitching at the sight of the human fleet. Admiral Morrison, your fleet's configurations violate 273 known laws of ship design. Our tactical computers are refusing to analyze your formation, claiming it causes them emotional distress. Only 273. Jack raised an eyebrow. We must be having an off day. Usually we aim for at least 300 violations before lunch. He turned to his crew. Let's show them our new tricks. Deploy the probability inverters. The Murphy's Law's experimental weapon systems hummed to life. The food synthesizer-turned-targeting computer began spitting out its signature rainbow toast at an accelerated rate, each slice somehow corresponding to a perfect targeting solution. "Sir," Diana reported, struggling to keep a straight face, "the Imperial Tactical AI is sending us a formal protest note. It claims our ship's existence is, and I quote, an offense against the natural order of mathematics. Send them back our standard response," Jack ordered. "The one that just says, 'Hold my beer,' in 17 different alien languages. That's the one." The Imperial fleet's perfect formation approach, their ships moving with mathematical precision. They never stood a chance against human chaos theory in action. The Nightmare Squadron's ships moved in patterns that shouldn't have been possible, using technology combinations that made theoretical physicists wake up screaming. The Murphy's Law led the charge, its impossible weapons finding their marks with uncanny accuracy. Each shot was guided by what Imperial scientists would later describe as caffeinated probability manipulation enhanced by colored breakfast foods. As the battle reached its peak, Jack activated the ship-wide comm. "All ships, execute operation. Make physics cry." The resulting maneuvers would later be classified as too improbable to describe by Imperial record keepers. The "this might work" created a localized field of pure impossibility by telling its drive system a particularly good knock-knock joke. The calculated risks kitchen appliance sensors picked up enemy weaknesses while playing Mozart. The "you asked for it" performed a tactical maneuver that technically hadn't been invented yet. When the dust settled, the Imperial fleet retreated in disarray, leaving behind a formal complaint about humans breaking the universe and a strongly worded request to please stop doing whatever it is you're doing. Jack recorded his after-action report with a grin. Nightmare Squadron continues to exceed expectations in confusing the enemy. Requisition request: more coffee, rainbow toast, and joke books. These are now classified as essential tactical supplies. Lieutenant Amanda Ace Blackwood stood in the engine room of her experimental vessel Physics Optional, surrounded by what looked like a mechanical representation of a caffeine-induced fever dream. 30 different alien propulsion systems hummed, whirred, and occasionally sang in perfect harmony, though the singing part wasn't in any of the original specifications. "Status report on the Harmony drive," she called out to her engineering team, while adjusting what appeared to be a Zylaxian power core connected to a modified toaster. Chief Engineer Bobby Sparks Thompson looked up from his console, which was decorated with lucky bamboo plants that somehow improved processing speed by 27%. The Meridian crystals are resonating with the Proximan plasma injectors, creating that quantum harmony you predicted. Though I still can't explain why it works better when we play country music on Thursdays. The ship's internal sensors suddenly lit up, indicating an incoming Imperial inspection vessel. Amanda grinned, straightening her uniform, which had several pockets added specifically for holding emergency duct tape. "Perfect timing," she said, patting the nearest engine component affectionately. "Let's show them what happens when you let humans play with alien technology." The Imperial Master Engineer, first-scale technologist Nix, materialized in the engine room with 2 junior inspectors. Their cybernetic implants began rapidly scanning the surrounding machinery, and within seconds, all 3 visitors displayed signs of severe technical distress. "What?" Nix's voice cracked as their optical sensors struggled to process what they were seeing. "What have you done to these engines?" Amanda beamed with pride. "Oh, you mean the Harmony drive? It's quite simple, really. We took a Zylaxian quantum core, merged it with Proximan plasma technology, added some Meridian crystal resonance, threw in a bit of Centaurian gravity manipulation." She continued listing modifications while one of the junior inspectors began to sway unsteadily. "But these systems are fundamentally incompatible," Nix protested, their cybernetic eye twitching violently. "The energy signatures alone should cause a cascade failure." "That's what the toaster is for," Bobby chimed in helpfully, pointing to the modified appliance. "It harmonizes the wavelengths. Well, that and Martha's lucky coffee mug. The whole system runs 15% better when it's full of her special brew. The second junior inspector finally found their voice. You're using kitchen appliances to stabilize experimental engine configurations. And good vibes, Amanda added cheerfully. Don't forget the good vibes. They're essential to the containment field stability. It's all documented in the technical manual. She held up a thick binder labeled Physics Optional. Operation Guide. Just roll with it. Nix grabbed the manual, flipping through pages filled with diagrams that looked like they'd been drawn by an engineer having an existential crisis. Their hands began to shake when they reached the section titled, Why We Added Christmas Lights to the Quantum Matrix. Trust use on this one. This. Nix's voice was barely a whisper. This violates every known law of engineering. Your power calculations are done in crayon. Blue crayon, Bobby corrected. Red ones make the math angry. We tested it. At that moment, the Physics Optional's 30 combined propulsion systems decided to demonstrate their capabilities. The ship smoothly accelerated to speeds that Imperial scientists had previously declared mathematically impossible, while the engine room filled with the gentle sound of quantum harmonics performing what sounded suspiciously like a country music ballad. Nix fainted dead away. One junior inspector followed suit, while the other sat down heavily and began questioning their career choices. Amanda helped the conscious inspector to their feet. Don't worry, this is a pretty common reaction. Would you like some coffee? It's got just a hint of quantum uncertainty. Really brings out the flavor. Later, during her official report to Human Space Command, Amanda would note, Imperial inspection completed successfully. 3 engineers down, 2 requesting retirement, and 1 asking for coffee recipes. The Physics Optional continues to operate at 147% of theoretical maximum efficiency, though we had to adjust the lucky bamboo plants after last Thursday's quantum hiccup. Request permission to add more Christmas lights to the quantum matrix. They seem to make the laws of physics more negotiable. In a separate classified addendum, she added, Note, still can't explain why the ship runs better when we don't think too hard about how it works. Recommend continuing this approach. Reality seems to appreciate our willingness to improvise. Captain Ryan, Renegade Cooper, leaned forward in his command chair aboard the HS demonstration of principles, watching as the Imperial Perfect Fleet emerged from hyperspace. His ship, described in official documentation as an ongoing disaster that achieves excellence through chaos, hummed with the energy of countless impossible modifications. They're hailing us, announced Communications Officer Jenny Static Williams, her console decorated with fuzzy dice that somehow improved signal clarity by 42%. On screen, Cooper ordered, straightening his lucky Hawaiian shirt that had become part of the ship's unofficial operating manual after it was discovered to enhance shield harmonics. Grand Admiral Xin of the Imperial Perfect Fleet appeared, their expression already showing signs of stress at the sensor readings they were undoubtedly receiving. Human vessel, power down immediately. Your ship's energy signature is causing our quantum computers physical pain. Physical pain. Cooper raised an eyebrow. How's that possible? They're computers. That's what we'd like to know. Kyan snapped. 3 of our most advanced tactical AIs are demanding therapy sessions. Chief Engineer Mike Mayhem Martinez called up from engineering, where he was adjusting what appeared to be a combination of a coffee maker, a quantum accelerator, and what everyone insisted was a lucky rubber duck. Captain, should I tell them about the entertainment system modifications? You mean the ones that let us use old video game controllers to aim quantum torpedoes? Cooper grinned. Let's save that surprise for later. The Imperial fleet spread out in a mathematically perfect formation, their ships gleaming with standardized precision. In response, the demonstration of principles activated its primary defense system, a shield configuration that incorporated elements from 30 different species technologies, all unified by what the engineering team called the power of positive thinking and questionable physics. They're charging weapons, reported Tactical Officer Sarah Bullseye Rodriguez, her station running on a modified game console that achieved targeting solutions through what Imperial scientists would later term recreational probability manipulation. Perfect. Cooper activated the ship-wide comm. All hands. Initiate operation. Make reality question its life choices. The demonstration of Principal's experimental systems sprang to life. The ship's hybrid drive, powered by a combination of conventional antimatter reactors and what appeared to be two alien coffee makers in a complex relationship, created propulsion patterns that caused the first Imperial quantum computer to crash with an error message reading reality.x has stopped working. "Sir," Jenny called out, trying not to laugh, "the Imperial flagship's AI is filing a formal complaint about our ship's existence. It's citing 17 different laws of physics that we're breaking simultaneously." "Only 17. Cooper shook his head. "We must be slacking." "Engineering. Activate the improbability enhancement system." "You mean the lucky rubber duck?" Mike asked. "That's the one." The rubber duck, now glowing with an energy signature that defied classification, somehow improved the ship's performance across all metrics. The Imperial fleet's second quantum computer crashed while trying to calculate the mathematical probability of this actually working. As the battle reached its peak, Cooper ordered the deployment of their secret weapon, a jury-rigged combination of the ship's entertainment system, the two alien coffee makers, and what was either a quantum harmonizer or a modified karaoke machine. No one was quite sure anymore. The resulting energy wave caused the third Imperial quantum computer to display a blue screen with the message, "Error 404, physics not found," before shutting down completely. Grand Admiral Xin reappeared on screen, their cybernetic monocle twitching violently. "What manner of madness is this? You're using game controllers as weapon interfaces. There's a rubber duck in your engine configuration. Your shield harmonics are being influenced by a Hawaiian shirt. Don't forget the coffee makers," Cooper added helpfully. "They're essential to our quantum probability matrix. Or maybe they just make really good coffee. Honestly, we're a bit fuzzy on the details." The Imperial Perfect Fleet, faced with a ship that treated the laws of physics more like polite suggestions, began to retreat. Their formations, previously precise to the millimeter, had devolved into what one junior officer would later describe as panic-driven geometry. As they watched the Imperial ships flee, Cooper recorded his log. "Operation successful. Recommend updating technical manuals to include Lucky Rubber Duck as standard equipment. Also, request permission to experiment with disco balls in the quantum matrix. Engineer Martinez has a theory about particle physics and dance music that actually seems promising." The demonstration of principles cruised away victorious, its impossible systems humming in harmony, while somewhere in the universe, the very concept of mathematics was reportedly seen filing for early retirement. Lieutenant Vix stood before the Imperial Engineering Academy's disciplinary board, her father's disapproving cybernetic gaze boring into her from the center seat. The young officer's recent thesis, "Embracing Controlled Chaos," learning from human engineering philosophy, had caused an uproar among the traditionalist faculty. "Explain yourself, Lieutenant," third-scale General Vix demanded, trying to ignore the lucky pencil tucked behind his daughter's ear, a habit she picked up from studying human engineering practices. "How do you justify suggesting that Imperial ships might benefit from?" He checked his notes. "Controlled chaos integration." "With respect, Father," she straightened her shoulders, "I've analyzed the battle data. The human vessel Lucky Break escaped your fleet using a garbage disposal unit as a thruster. The Coffee Break defeated 3 destroyers with a weapon system that involved an actual coffee maker. The Murphy's Law targets better when its captain holds his mug in his left hand." "Those are statistical anomalies," one of the senior engineers protested. "No," Vix countered, pulling up holographic battle footage. "Those are consistent results achieved through unconventional methods. Look at Captain Danny Disaster O'Brien's ship, watch this. It survived a black hole encounter last week by using modified alien technology in ways that made our theoretical physics department request stress leave. Meanwhile, across the Academy grounds, a secret meeting of the Logical Rebellion was taking place. 24 young Imperial officers gathered in an abandoned simulator room, their uniform sleeves rolled up as they tinkered with equipment in distinctly un-Imperial ways. Junior Engineer Kex, who had recently adopted the nickname Spark, held up a standard Imperial sensor array modified with what appeared to be parts from a vintage music player. Look at this. If we add this human-style randomization circuit, scanning efficiency increases by 35%. But how? Asked another young officer. I have absolutely no idea, Kex grinned, and that's exactly the point. The humans have taught us that sometimes not understanding why something works is part of why it works. Back in the disciplinary hearing, Lieutenant Vix was warming to her subject. The Empire has always prided itself on precision, on perfect mathematical models. But look at what happened when the physics optional demonstrated 30 different propulsion systems working in harmony. That ship's existence is an insult to rational engineering, muttered one board member. That ship achieved 147% of theoretical maximum efficiency, Vix countered, while playing country music on Thursdays. Our own computers couldn't explain it, but they couldn't deny the results either. The secret meeting was growing more animated. Junior officers shared their experiments, shield generators modified with Lucky Charms, targeting systems enhanced by playing classical music, and one particularly innovative attempt to improve engine efficiency using a collection of rubber ducks painted in Imperial colors. My father would have a fit if he saw this, laughed Engineering Cadet 6 as she adjusted what appeared to be a quantum harmonizer decorated with fuzzy dice. But I achieved better results with this setup than any standard configuration. The revolution was spreading. Across Imperial space, young officers were beginning to question the rigid doctrine that had defined their civilization for millennia. They started keeping lucky items at their stations, playing music during routine operations, and most shockingly, improvising solutions instead of following standard protocols. In the disciplinary chamber, Lieutenant Vix delivered her closing argument. The humans haven't broken physics. They've shown us that physics has more possibilities than we imagined. Their ships run on coffee, luck, and impossible ideas, and they consistently outperform our mathematically perfect designs. Maybe it's time we learned from them. The board sat in stunned silence. Finally, third-scale General Vix spoke, his voice carrying a hint of what might have been pride. Lieutenant, your ideas are dangerous, unconventional, and challenge everything we believe about proper engineering. Thank you, Father. That wasn't a compliment. By Imperial standards, no, she smiled, adjusting her lucky pencil. But I think the humans would take it as one. As if to punctuate her point, alarms suddenly blared across the Academy. The Watch This had been spotted near the sector, performing maneuvers that made the Academy's physics professors cover their eyes and mutter about early retirement. Lieutenant Vix's grin widened. Now shall we discuss my proposal for adding fuzzy dice to our quantum probability calculators? The preliminary results are quite promising. The inaugural ceremony of the Human Imperial Experimental Ship Design Institute was going exactly as Senior Engineer Katie Heboom Roberts had predicted, which is to say, completely chaotic and surprisingly effective. She stood at the podium, her lab coat decorated with lucky patches from 17 different alien civilizations, addressing a mixed audience of excited human engineers and increasingly nervous Imperial officials. And that's why, she continued, gesturing to what appeared to be a toaster connected to 3 alien power cores. Theoretical impossibility is just another way of saying challenge accepted in human engineering terms. In the front row, Imperial Grand Engineer XOX was clutching a stress ball that had been handed out as part of the welcome package. The ball, naturally, had been modified by human engineers to emit calming quantum harmonics. Several younger Imperial engineers were taking notes with unprecedented enthusiasm. "Now for a practical demonstration," Katie announced, her grin widening. "Let's show everyone why the Institute's motto is physics. More of a suggestion, really." Her assistant, Lieutenant Vix, now proudly sporting both her Imperial credentials and a collection of Lucky Charms, wheeled out a cart containing what looked like a combination of everyday appliances and highly advanced alien technology. "This," Katie patted the bizarre assembly, "is our new prototype FTL drive. It combines a toaster, 3 alien power cores, and what we're pretty sure is pure optimism into a functioning faster-than-light propulsion system." "That's impossible," one of the older Imperial engineers shouted. "Exactly," Katie beamed. "That's why it works so well. Lieutenant Vix, would you do the honors?" The young Imperial officer, who had become something of a bridge between the two engineering philosophies, activated the device. The toaster popped up perfectly browned slices of bread, while the power cores hummed in harmony. A small field of faster-than-light energy formed above the assembly, causing several Imperial sensors to display error messages in 17 different languages. "As you can see," Katie continued over the sound of Imperial physicists whimpering, "the system achieves 200% efficiency through what we've termed aggressive disregard for conventional limitations. Also, it makes excellent toast." The demonstration continued as the first joint human-Imperial vessel, the Calculated Chaos, was unveiled. The ship represented a true fusion of both civilizations' approaches, precise Imperial engineering enhanced by human creativity, and what the official documentation referred to as strategic applications of luck and caffeinated inspiration. Commander Mark Murphy Chen, appointed as the ship's first captain, gave a tour to the assembled dignitaries. "Here we have the bridge, where Imperial quantum computers work alongside human Lucky Charms. The targeting system combines Imperial precision with a modified game controller, and yes, that is a disco ball in the quantum matrix." Turns out Engineer Martinez was right about particle physics and dance music. The ship's engine room proved particularly interesting. Chief Engineer Sarah Paradox Williams proudly showed off the hybrid propulsion system, which featured both Imperial standardized components and human modifications that made theoretical physicists reach for their stress balls. The real breakthrough, Sarah explained to the wide-eyed audience, was getting the Imperial systems to accept that sometimes not understanding why something works is part of the design specification. "Watch this." She pressed a button, causing the engine core to perform a perfect harmonic resonance while playing what sounded suspiciously like country music. "The best part," Lieutenant Vix added, adjusting her lucky pencil, "is that our Imperial quantum computers have finally stopped trying to explain how it all works. They've learned to just go with it, which ironically has improved their processing efficiency by 73%. As the ceremony concluded, Katie returned to the podium for final remarks. "Today marks a new era in space engineering. We've proven that Imperial precision and human chaos aren't opposites, they're complementary approaches to the same goal. Yes, our methods may seem strange. Yes, we may occasionally make physics cry. But together, we're achieving things that neither of us could have done alone." She held up a piece of perfectly toasted bread from the FTL drive. "Besides, what other propulsion system doubles as a breakfast maker?" The Calculated Chaos lifted off for its maiden voyage, its impossible systems humming in perfect harmony, while in the engine room, Imperial engineers and human technicians worked side by side, proving that sometimes the best way to advance technology was to combine careful calculation with a healthy dose of "let's see what happens." The ship's official log recorded its first entry, Day 1 of human Imperial cooperation successful. Ship operating at 300% of theoretical maximum efficiency. Request additional coffee supplies, Lucky Charms, and stress balls for our Imperial colleagues. Also, the Quantum Physics Department has officially given up trying to explain how any of this works, which means we're right on schedule.